We are going live. Live on the interweb. This is the Jimmy Doane Show. Hey everybody. This is Counselor Curtis. Today is the 26th of May, 2019. I'm here with Jimmy Doane.
You're sure we're on, right?
Yeah, mostly.
Okay, mostly. Something going on.
It looks like it.
It looks like it here. Memorial Day weekend.
That's right. That's right. So hopefully you are celebrating your memorials.
Right. Well, today is, I saw this little meme on Facebook. It showed the people storming the beaches of Normandy. And they said people went on this beach, and then they showed a picture of everybody on the beach out
Same
there.
thing.
Same thing, right? Storming the beaches, yeah.
So we do this twice a week these days, 4 o'clock Wednesdays and Sundays right here live. Also, I'll post a timestamp copy up on YouTube right after the show, or an hour or so after. Also, you can find us on iTunes and other audio podcast formats. Please find us, like us, check us, send us with your friends, all that kind of good stuff. What's going on, Dr. Doane?
Okay, what's going on? A couple things. One thing, let me just show you this real quick. It's supposed to be 100 degrees today.
Hey, Gene, 100?
100. We have not seen 100. One of the things about Florida is because we have humidity, which is like a sauna bath. The humidity it doesn't get up to this dry heat bullshit that they have. 120 degrees or something out there. Some places, Las Vegas or Scottsdale. No, here it doesn't get that hot. It just gets all soggy, wet, where you walk outside and you're just drenched.
Yeah.
Anyway, so when it goes over 100, that's a big deal. That's the forecast, but they're talking about triple digits in Florida, which is very unusual. However, one of the things that we do have going for us, this is one of the things we have going for us. Let me just show you this picture right here.
Okay.
You know what that is?
That looks like an old car with love bugs.
Love bug season.
Back in
this is what you get. This is what you get in Florida about this time of the year. Not always. It seems to rotate around, but basically, when you drive down the road, you have to stop about every 30, 40 miles. And what they've done in the rest areas here in Florida.
Jimmy's making stuff up here.
No, I'm not. In the rest areas, they've actually provided a free hose where you can kind of hose it down, because literally you get to the point where you cannot see out your window. And the other neat thing about love bugs is if you leave them...
They darken the skies!
They darken the sky. Well, a couple things. Wait a minute, let me just finish here before I get started. The nice thing about love bugs is if you leave them on your car for any length of time, like a couple of days, they literally, whatever's in their body starts to eat away the paint on your car.
So it's a natural stripping technique.
Right. Even on the really good cars and everything, it's a natural strip. Now, one of the things that is interesting about this, I was watching a video, a documentary on YouTube earlier today, coincidentally, about the extinction of insects worldwide. And this guy has been collecting data for, 30 years. And he goes out and he puts up, apparently around, I don't know where it's around the world. He's German, I think. And he puts up these...
Does he work for the UN? Just asking.
Actually, we're going to get into that.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay, just, you don't jump ahead like this.
I'm just
I know.
where you
See, we're always ahead of the curve, but you can't be too far ahead of the curve.
Go ahead.
Right, so anyway, he puts up these tent-like things or whatever it is and collects the bugs or insects in there for some period of time. And he's over the last 25, 30 years. And what he's found is in these particular locations that the number of insects that he manages to collect has decreased by some 75%. Well, not love bugs, I can tell you that right now. We got those show up pretty regularly. They migrate around the state. They're up here in Gainesville now, but sometimes they're down south and all over the place. Who knows?
Well, so wait, what are you suggesting there? That the bug extinction is imminent?
No, what I'm saying is, if you're worried about, I don't know how much pollination love bugs do except each other, but but the fact is that apparently. When I think about bug extinction, it ain't love bugs. Okay, that's all I'm saying. Speaking of wildlife,
okay,
I haven't done this yet. I might go ahead and post it on the Facebook page here later. What I've been doing for the last couple of nights is going out. I've got a game cam that what it does, it fires up and gives you about 15 seconds. It takes a picture if there's movement in front of it, and it takes a picture and and then a little 11-second video. So I went out there and I downloaded the videos and converted them and everything. Turns out we got quite the refuge out here.
Mm-hmm.
I'm in the city. Okay, we're in the city. I got about a half an acre of backyard.
This is city, though. I mean,
well, it's Gainesville. Well, yeah. Okay, I'm in the city. But what's interesting is I caught a fox, and apparently we have a couple of foxes here. That, yeah, you have to understand the amount of woods I've got around here is about 200 square feet. So, and I've got a possum.
Actually, you probably have 1,000 or 2,000 square feet of woods around here. In reality.
In reality,
yeah.
Okay, well, maybe, but still, I've got a family of raccoons. I've got a possum, and I've got a fox that I know of. And Mrs. Jimmy was worried because I put a little food out in front of the camera, and Mrs. Jimmy was worried. Said, "We're going to track rats." And I thought, well, the fox is going to like that. I mean, the fox is going to come out there and scarf them up, so we won't have any rats after that. That'd be fine. But I just thought it was interesting, and I'll put up a little video that here in basically in the city, I've got foxes, and of course, on at least one occasion, I saw a deer run across my property, if you can imagine. So, anyway, so here we are. The one last thing before I get into what I'm talking about here today. Okay, come on.
Go ahead.
I thought it was interesting that Waters. I got this link from my sister-in-law.
Okay.
And she was showing Waters World, and what he does is he does the same thing that
interviews with the kids.
Right. Interviews with the kids. Same thing that Jaywalking used to do. And apparently he went to some college campus, and he asked them, good Memorial Day, who won the Vietnam War? France. That was the answer.
That was the most given answer?
Well, no, just this one in particular,
oh, okay.
France. But of course, I think that today asking that particular question is you kind of ask, you certainly wasn't the United States with all the power on the planet. You know, we went and invaded this country that's the size of, I don't know, the Keys, and and they won't us. So, you know, I'm not sure I'd be asking that question today.
Well, I mean, the question is, who still lives there?
Huh?
Who lives there?
The Vietnamese. Yeah. Right,
and I guess they won.
And you're right. And of course, also, it turns out that some of my clothes are made in Vietnam now. It's kind of interesting.
I'd say the South won, the North.
Yeah, right. Well, that's right. So, okay, moving on. Here's some of the things that I've actually got on my list today to talk about, in no particular order.
Oh no!
Yes, random.
God, you know, I think Scott Adams must watch our podcast because that's how he started his news brief today.
Oh, is that right?
In no particular order.
Okay. Princess Diana's death recreated as an attraction in a new U.S. theme park. Now, I don't know about you, but I'm thinking, really?
Yeah.
A new theme park launching in the U.S. has insisted that an attraction depicting Princess Diana's death is not in poor taste. Now, you have to know that it says the National Enquirer Live. So right away we're talking
about... that's the name of the theme park.
Right.
It's a theme park about sensationalist news.
Exactly.
But it's interesting because the article makes it sound like it's a full-on ride, like they put you in a car, right, drive you in a tunnel, you know, and then you're rammed from the other side by another car. And
it's probably not.
No, well, no, I'm thinking
I think it's kind of like, if I'm not mistaken from this, it's kind of like the big screen that we see down here with the glasses or whatever, 3D something.
I'm thinking it could be, from the way the article is written, it could be as little as a 5-minute video clip that they show interspersed with other footage of the royals or something.
Right. Well, and of course it says include a 3D computer model remake of the '97 car crash. You have to pay £20. Now I don't know.
Well, it's £20 for the attraction. Well, that's for the entire theme park or something.
Right. Okay.
That's what.
And afterwards they're going to ask their opinion about whether they think it was killed by the monarchy or.
Well, you know, that's like a yes or that's weird.
I know.
Again, it makes it sound like you know, it's a death camp theme park about dying. And the Sunshine Skyway Bridge experience is right after that.
That's right. Well.
That one would actually be fun. Yeah, you know, you get to go off in a bus or in a car.
Yeah. Well, we did. Of course, they already have some like that where they strap you in, you know, and they drop you off, and those are always fun because apparently you can buy the video of yourself You know what they had the cameras on there, and you see the difference in the people that are there. It's some people are laughing, other people are screaming, "Let me get out of here." They also are going to have theme park include the Titanic Museum
and the Evel Knievel failed jump across the
right. That's right. The Elvis and Hollywood Legends Museum and the Biblical Times Dinner Theater. Biblical Times Dinner Theater, complete with a crucifixion.
I was going to say a sorting. Somebody's got to get sorted in the
anyway,
times, not biblical. Okay, biblical times.
So anyway, they said it was a small part of the Royal Closet attraction, whatever.
Yeah.
I just thought they're questioning: is this in bad taste?
I don't know.
No, I guess we can fill them up.
Yeah, we also got a 9/11 theme park right next door to that too.
Yeah, right, exactly.
We just show you the towers coming down over and over.
Well, and they have a virtual jump out the window.
That's right. You get
See,
to do
you
that.
can watch the ground.
That's right.
Come up towards you.
And they throw a bunch of rocks on top of you.
Sure. Good deal. Way to go. Way to go. And good. This is all in good taste now.
Sure.
Okay. No people were actually harmed in the making of this
That's
video.
right. Well, one lucky audience member. Right.
Well, you're right. That's right. Who's next? President Donald Trump took a hit on the Trump news. Took a hit Friday as House Speaker Nancy Pelosi's state of mind, saying she isn't the same as she used to be. Now, of course, they have been battling it out over each other's insanity.
Yeah.
I mean, this is amazing, and that's not all. Morning Joe, I think, was another one who said,
Well, he's just jumping on board.
Right.
I got to hand it to Nancy and Donald for their acting ability.
Was that right?
Yeah, they're
Okay.
good. I mean, Nancy looks straight at the camera in front of all those people and says they need an intervention.
An intervention, yeah.
And I mean, with a straight face, and,
Yeah.
and just over and over again pulls it off. And he does the same thing. She's not what she used to be.
Yeah.
At least he compares it to something that can't be measured. You know what she used to be.
Right.
Versus, if he does something now with some great intellectual skill, how does she explain her prior comments? It was like after Hillary did the 11-hour live testimony on Benghazi.
Yeah.
It was like, how are you going to question her stamina at that point? It's
Right.
Like, so.
Yeah, we'll see. At any rate, calling the speaker was calling President a baby. That was another one of her.
Yeah, well, she loves to say that.
Yeah.
And then he's throwing tantrums.
Yeah, and worried about Trump's mental decline. This was from Joe Scarborough on MSNBC.
Well, again, he's just saying whatever. I mean, that guy, he has the look on his face like just a scorned individual. He like Maxine Waters. You see her face. It's just so personal to those people.
Yeah, it really is.
It's something. Somehow they were deeply wounded in the whole series.
I can imagine why when you think about it.
He called her low IQ and
Right.
everything. I don't know what he said about Joe Scarborough over the years.
Probably not much, but
He was in the
Congress.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, no, he's an ex-Congress member.
right. So I mean, there may have been some.
Well, that was years ago.
Yeah, I know. I don't know
before
of any
Trump.
conflict between
Yeah.
the two.
Well, he's married to Brzezinski or whatever.
Oh well, that's right. Well, he did say something about Brzezinski and the bleeding and at the Mar-a-Lago thing.
Yeah.
So yeah. Okay, there it is.
There it is. Right.
It's easy to see the people who really hate it, like McCabe.
Yeah.
I think where he said he called his wife a loser, and that's like Trump's worst.
I'm a loser.
That's his biggest insult.
Oh, well, I was going to. Speaking of losers, should I tell everybody what a loser I am?
Not yet. Wait, hold on till we maybe have the good news also.
Okay,
So.
all right. I've been playing that Beatles song over and over. That's since I'm a loser.
Jury's still out. Hold on.
Okay, the jury's still out. All right. Another presidential running candidate person, whom I've never heard of, but which is kind of there's 21 or 22 of them now. Mm-hmm. John Delaney.
Okay.
He's a Democratic presidential candidate, as you would expect. Mm-hmm. Releases a $4 trillion climate plan that aims to tax carbon and return funds to the American people. Now, you're right. So there's a small brokerage fee involved in this.
It's an investment.
Well, that's right. But there's a brokerage fee, as you would expect, when you go and get, for instance, food stamps or something being returned to the American people, you do have to understand there's an entire bureaucracy that sucked off half the money to begin with.
What?
Yeah, I know. There's a brokerage fee.
It's a bunch of volunteers.
Not quite. Of course, they're paid volunteers.
Yeah.
So that's okay. It became the latest 2020 candidate to unveil a plan to combat climate change on Thursday, rolling out a $4 trillion proposal that includes a carbon tax and a substantial increase to the Department of Energy budget.
All right, so we're going to start by doubling our payout.
Right. The largest portion of the former Maryland representative's plan in his proposal is to tax carbon polluters and redistribute that money to the American people, which he has dubbed the carbon-free and dividend proposal. He said on Thursday that part of his plan alone would reduce carbon emissions by 90% by 2050. And his campaign, the only way I'm going to be here 2050 is we have reached the singularity here in about 10 years.
Yeah, get you some
A
chicken.
campaign touted to result in a $3 trillion in government revenues. And here's where it comes. $3 trillion in government revenues. Now, and this is the United States, and we're going to solve all by ourselves the carbon problem for the world, which we take up like 6% of the area.
No, there's so many things wrong with this plan.
Well, of course, when you distribute it back to quote the American people, who gets it? And of course, it can be, well, you know, the favored people.
Yeah, everybody gets it.
Yeah, that's right. Bend over. I'll show you who gets it.
Well, look, you look at this. I mean, the whole carbon tax. Now, the one thing that he does say that's good is ending the subsidies for the fossil fuel companies.
I agree with that.
They don't need none of those.
No, they don't need it. No.
And so sink or swim. But look, people need fossil fuels. He's talking about, like you said, the United States. So, like, even if we eliminated all of our carbon output, no big deal. So he wants to build these machines, these carbon
these giant sucking machines, right? It reminds me of that Martin Sheen, not Martin Sheen, Charlie Sheen movie in I forget what it's called, where they.
Oh right, yeah, Arrival.
Arrival, is that what it was?
They were doing the reverse.
They were doing the reverse.
They were putting out giant methane blasts to change the atmosphere.
Yeah.
Well, so look, you have to figure there's a constituency out there that wants the world's climate to change. Anybody who lives in the super northern climates, who would like longer growing seasons and more mild winters.
I wouldn't mind having a little milder summer here.
And so there is an argument that's made that the increase in the kinetic energy does reduce the extremes of weather, actually.
Okay.
So I've read one thing. But again, we're coming back to, man, this is pie in the sky. 2050, man, that's magic land.
Yeah.
In terms of timing from all levels, from all angles.
Might as well be by 2300. We're gonna
exactly. I mean, there's the difference between now and 2050 is going to seem like magic.
Yeah.
And so, and not only that, to that end, those two girls, 20-year-olds, with another one of your stories here, just invented the bacteria which eats plastic.
Yeah.
And then turns into water. So, yet another thing where here's this guy wants to invest the entire output of the United States into building these super inefficient carbon sucking machines, which again,
what could go wrong?
Yeah, exactly.
What could possibly go wrong?
Well, wait for the market to figure it out. If it was something that needed to be figured out, and they, I'm sure, are going to do it in a lot more efficient way, rather than these.
Yeah,
today's technology.
Cylinder comes to mind.
Right. Well, just so many things wrong with it. Anyway, go ahead.
So anyway, the plan also looks to increase the number of government grants on combating climate change and spur volunteerism to deal with the issue in a newfound climate corps. This is not the Peace Corps anymore, but this is going to be the climate corps.
Yeah, the climate youth.
That's right. So I just think it's interesting that this you talk about pie in the sky, and this guy's, I mean, he's serious.
I thought the war on terror was bad, but now we have the war on climate.
Yeah, the war. And this is one of the things that I always said this before. One of the things you can find is when the government declares a war on something, you
get more of it.
You get more of it. And I've always said you should declare a war on education.
Well, totally.
Yeah, and that way you'd end up with maybe
tons of education.
Tons of it. War on education, and you get the opposite. So
right.
That would be.
I don't know what more climate means. It's just
We're having more climate. What do you mean,
exactly.
man?
It's just a battlefront. It's like,
That's right.
and to think that people who are running for the highest office in the land have the cojones to propose a $4 trillion increase in spending.
It's kind of the point now.
Fully doubling, like it doesn't even matter.
Well, that's that's over 10, 15 years, blah blah blah.
Okay, all right.
I mean,
okay.
it's certainly not the first year.
Yeah, well, okay, well then why not just say what it is?
Well, of course, the other thing is
year.
he's president. Okay, let's say it's to 20. So maybe it's a 30-year plan. Okay, between now and 2050. Okay, let's say it is. No matter, even if he's a genius, does whatever it is, he ain't gonna be in there more than 8 years.
Right.
Tops.
Yeah.
Well, and by that time, people are gonna say, "Get the hell out of
They're
here."
going to figure out a different solution.
WikiLeaks founder Julian Assange is indicted under the Federal Espionage Act, raising profound First Amendment issues. And it's interesting because he has 17 counts in a superseding indictment over his role in obtaining and publishing classified documents about a decade ago. Mr. Assange vaulted to global fame nearly a decade ago as a champion of openness about what governments secretly do. And of course, when you saw a lot of this stuff, I remember that one of the first ones was that video that showed the helicopter gunship blasting a wedding party or something like that. And oops.
Collateral damage.
Collateral damage, right. And apparently there have been lots of cases of this. So he is a champion of openness about what governments secretly do. But in this, he's become a target for a case that would open the door to criminalizing activities that are crucial to investigative journalists. And of course now what the deal was, the question was, is he a journalist? And of course the people that are all the journalist people are saying, yeah, I mean, that's what you do. You go out and you get this stuff. Well, and then, of course...
No, he doesn't have a license.
He doesn't have... Right.
If he had a license to do that stuff,
Right.
it'd be fine.
Yeah.
But because he doesn't have a license, it's a heinous crime against humanity.
That's right. So
If he had a heinous crimes against humanity license, then it wouldn't be a problem.
That's right. So anyway, the guys at whoever's indicting him says he's not a journalist, so we can prosecute him. The Justice Department's National Security Division said at a briefing, the department takes very seriously the role of journalists in our democracy, and we thank you for it. It is not and never has been the department's policy to target them for reporting. But Assange is no journalist. He accused him of conspiring with Ms. Manning to obtain classified information. No responsible actor, journalist, or otherwise would purposely publish the names of individuals he or she knew to be confidential human sources in a war zone, exposing them to the gravest of dangers. Now, of course, one of the things that's interesting is they're in a war zone.
Right.
And
he's going to expose them.
Right. He's going to expose them. They're in a war zone.
Tenuous
yeah, I'm sitting there thinking.
But hey, at least if they would be held to prove that as a standard, then that would be something. But this is one of those situations where I just have to tell everybody, if you don't already know, at the edges, our criminal justice system breaks down. And there are things that we can't do under the Constitution, but which our government finds ways to do anyway.
Right. Well, remember when John Liu came up and said that torture was just peachy?
Well, stuff like that. And well, like we do, like, okay, so we're not allowed to torture, so then we set up a prison, a secret prison, in a foreign country where it's fine, and then we staff it with just enough people to qualify as it being one of their prisons, and then we torture people. So, I mean, exactly the same result.
Well, they have CIA rendition places around the country.
Man,
around
there's
the
so
world.
many things. And, I mean, look, it just comes down to, going back to the Nuremberg trials. I mean, there was no law. You can't.
Right.
How are you going to prosecute? The country's gone. It's wiped out.
Yeah.
So, and you mean you could let them reform their government and then let them take care of the Nazis or whatever. But no, that's not what we did. We set up a international court with natural law jurisdiction.
Yeah.
And just create. Well, what else we got here?
Yeah.
And so this is the kind of thing that they're doing for Assange. He's a special case, exceptional case. And the rule that you can remember is, if you are really pissing off people at the top level, it doesn't matter if what you're doing is constitutional or legal or anything like that.
Right.
They can just disappear you, and that's just
Well,
the way
of course,
it is.
what's interesting is you always see nowadays is you don't even have to be at the top level. You can be just merely a policeman and you do something that is video cam, everything like that, and you're thinking, how is this guy not being arrested? No, he gets off. He was.
You mean when in police abuse or police over?
Yeah.
Well, okay, but they don't disappear you. They beat you up or something. I mean, you show up to court the next day though. This government thing, this is black ops, top high CIA level Assange. The only reason he's not literally disappeared is because he's too high profile to do that.
Yeah.
And then they would blow. Everybody would know you could do that. But if they wanted to do us, and then
Interesting you should mention that, because that was a continuing theme for 4 or 5 or 6 episodes of one of my favorite bingey things is West Wing.
What?
When the United States government, disappeared a fellow that they considered to be an enemy of the United States and so forth. It was interesting. So watch that again.
Watch out. Exactly.
Yeah, watch that. The Supreme Court blocks gerrymandering rulings in Michigan and Ohio. This is Supreme Court stuff again. Supreme Court on Friday set aside 2 major lower court rulings, tossing out congressional maps of Michigan and Ohio, putting the process of redrawing district lines on hold while it prepares to rule on whether or not partisan gerrymandering is constitutional. And one of the things that goes on here, there's the Republicans in both Midwestern states had appealed I'm not sure why it's Republicans that appealed this, had repealed lower court rulings that their congressional maps had been drawn so egregiously to favor the GOP that they violated the constitutional rights of the voters. So I don't know why the GOP was against that, because they, whatever, they have done it. Anyway, they heard arguments already, the U.S. Supreme Court, partisan gerrymandering cases from Maryland and North Carolina, and the High Court is expected to render a decision next month, June, on that could decide what happens in Michigan and Ohio as well. Now, one of the things that I thought was that the Supreme Court, and this came up in 2000 with the Gore versus Bush thing, and that is the Supreme Court technically is not supposed to rule on political decisions. In other words, if it's politics, not a law. We're not talking about the Constitution here. Mm-hmm. We're talking about something that is political, and that's so. In other words, I don't understand why the U.S. Supreme Court took on Gore v. whatever it was, Bush. What's her name? Catherine. Should have just signed it off and been done with it. I mean, that was a local political decision. Ballot this. We have rules here in Florida. So many days, then you have to certify it and so forth. The Supreme Court should have nothing to do with that. And this, to me, is another thing. This is a political decision on how you draw your maps in a state. It's a state problem. I don't see where the court gets involved in this, because next thing you know, the Supreme Court is going to be sitting in there drawing the lines in Michigan for us. I mean, it's not their job.
Well, I'm going to say you might be right about all of that entire analysis. The Supreme Court does only have jurisdiction, supposedly, over certain aspects, certain things, and
it's constitutional
and
stuff.
State political things are sort of the least within their reach in some ways, but.
They always grab on the 14th Amendment and enlarge the hell out of it.
Well, it's more than that. They also get out of there with the elasticity clause, and they can do whatever they want.
I know.
At the end of the day, the United States Supreme Court has already subverted and taken every power and everything that it needs. The federal government is omnipotent, really. And they could pass, as I've said before, an omnibus bill that regulates all of us down to the food that we eat, the hours that we sleep, and whether or not we can own a dog, and base it all on the concept that somehow it's in exchange for the health care that they're providing, or any other service that the government wants to say. And the Supreme Court, based on the decisions that are out there, may uphold that, which is scary.
Scary, doesn't it?
Right. So this is maybe one more step in that direction. But the two good things about it, one is that if you think about drawing legislative districts, it's actually quite a difficult process, because there are countervening considerations.
Such as?
Well, do you include areas that are alike by population, or areas that are alike by, let's say, industry? If you're gonna section off parts of a city, for example, there are various things that legitimate considerations that conflict with one another all over the place.
So like for instance, what I'm saying is when you set up it's supposed to be, you do the census, and you have a number of people in the state.
Okay.
And what you do is you start at one end of the state, and first of all you know that there's going to be 14 districts, so you start to comb through the state, and you go to 1/14th, another 14th, another 14th, and on around like that, and that's it. End of story.
Well, I see what you're saying, and it seems like that would be...
It's people only. You don't care who's in there.
Well, again, I mean, let's say there's a river or something that goes between there, and it splits the population in a way that's sort of unnatural, because half of the people on both sides of the river sort of have the same industry. It has something to do with...
Who cares?
Well, what I'm saying is there are competing interests to drawing the lines, and I mean, I'm not doing a good job of identifying them right here, but
no, because how about protected people? LGBTQ.
Well, it's not that, but I mean, but that is one of the things that they try to do. What I'm saying is that there are actually legitimate concerns in that regard. I guess I can't think of it off the top of my head. My point is that it's very difficult to do, and you can't just say one way is correct or another. I mean, if you do it just like a wheel, like you said, and you just do, X degrees over, and and that's it, and straight down this way, then you potentially separate communities into different districts. Like for example,
that already.
Whole neighborhoods. I know, but
I mean, like Miami, for God's sakes, I don't know how many. There's 2 or 3 representatives in various parts of Miami, I think.
Of course there are. And that's what I'm saying. And that's where the compete. Somebody says, well, look, really, my people should have the waterfront district also, because most of the people who own them. What? All I'm trying to say is there's no easy answer for the redistricting, which is probably why the Supreme Court's involved, because it's one of those gray areas. It's always going to be a gray area.
Right.
You're never ever going to say, okay, now we have the perfect voting block.
No. I understand that. There's not going to be any perfect business. And of course, what they've tried to do in the past is when their various states have been, unapologetic about stuffing one particular version of people with all white or all black or something like that, so that they waited all.
Yeah, we've seen crazy. We had our district in this state that looked like you squashed a daddy long leg in terms.
Right.
It was
She's
all
in jail,
over.
by the way.
The daddy long leg squash.
No, the girl. The one was in. That was in her district.
Oh, right.
She's in jail.
So. And what they tried to do with the recent Supreme Court rulings was sort of rule out the things that looked like they were more obviously engineered to create groups, like ethnic groups, within, like voting blocks within districts. And so, but it's all nebulous. But the second thing I wanted to say is, it doesn't really matter so much, because the votes. What do you get to vote for? A person, and then the person gets to maybe vote for stuff that maybe comes up. And in other words, you don't have any real power through the voting system anyway. You have a lot more power with where you spend your money than what you vote for.
Absolutely, the ultimate democracy is the dollar bill.
Right.
That's right.
So.
Oh, speaking of, and I'm saying, okay, you saw this.
No, that's the letter F.
That's the letter F. But I did, as an aside, one little branchy thing here. There's some school districts spent $56,000 to redo all of their yearbooks because some of the students had done this sign in their picture. And
Wow.
They said this was the white power sign, is what they said. So they recalled all the yearbooks and had them all reprinted with that. Okay, so
Knock yourself out.
Knock yourself out. That's right. Okay, so the Trump's latest explanation for the Huawei ban, Huawei, is unacceptably bad, and this is one of the things that I look at this and I'm thinking, well, what were you interfering in this thing? What he's done is not only do they have a Huawei ban on Huawei, but anybody on the world who does business with them is now on our shit list. I mean, now we can't do business with. Same thing with Iraq.
Is this all part and parcel to the trade negotiations, or
I don't know what it is. I mean, what they're it's part of it. It has to do with we're going to punish China until they holler give or something. Cutting off every U.S. partner at the risk of long-term rupture in trade between the U.S. and China. And while the impact is clear, it's not entirely clear why it was put in place. The official explanation, according to the initial executive order, is that Huawei hardware puts the U.S. at risk for espionage. I'm thinking, well, no, I want to. What they're worried about here.
Well, in that's just a heavy-handed bluff.
Yeah, it may be, but I'm saying foreign adversaries are foreign adversaries are increasingly creating and exploiting vulnerabilities, information and communications technologies and services. And I'm thinking, wait a minute, look at Google and Facebook and I don't know, the United States. These people they're responsible for building their own firewalls. I mean, if they get, how can I put this? If they get compromised, it's their fault. Because here's the deal. Right off the bat, the Ruskies and the Icelanders and the people from Venezuela and North Korea,
provocative Icelanders.
That's right, are trying to bust into our stuff and change what we do.
Right.
I understand that. So that going in.
Right. Well, look, they're obviously going to have security measures. Google didn't get to be where they are without security measures.
Right.
Okay, so maybe Huawei found a back door, a way in, or something.
They're worried. Well, maybe.
Okay, so what? Unless it's at the point of where it actually is a security threat, in which case the president does something about it on a security level. But if it's not a security threat, then that type of bloviating is just that. It's just, this is a way to threaten them to do what we want, so that and we say, look. It's going to be a security threat. It's like, oh, look, we're going to lose our minds over this if you don't do what we want, kind of thing. And they don't know whether you're serious or not at that point.
Well, apparently, Huawei has already taken steps. One of the problems was had to do with the chips, were American chips of some kind, or American-based or something. They said, well, we're not going to let them use the technologies that are in our chips. So they've made a way around that. They've got doing their own chips now, blah blah blah. But still, and like you say, it seems to be a little heavy-handed. Their claims, of course, first that the restrictions were placed on Huawei because the company is a security threat, and second, that the restrictions might be lifted as part of a trade deal. Wait a minute. This is a security threat, okay? Now we have a trade deal, and now it's not a security threat?
Right, well, that's why I say it's a bluff, because if it's a security threat, then you don't lift it for a trade deal. But if you're willing to lift it for a trade deal, then you're just saying, I don't know, maybe you guys are a security threat.
Well, this is one of the things that I've always said that I'm going out here on a little branch now.
Oh, okay.
Okay. Had to do with the court system, and that is, if you're going to grant somebody bail or something like this, why don't you just ROR them?
Well, there's a big push to do that, actually.
Because if he's a threat to the community, but you allow him to get off for $2,500 or whatever it is, wait a minute. You can't. You either remand him without remand or release.
Well, but since we're into this, the two prongs in Florida that they consider when setting your bail are you a threat to the community, and will you return for court? That's it. Those are the only two considerations.
Why do they care if you return for court?
So that they can complete the process. You've been arrested.
Yeah.
And
so you hoof it to Montana. Well, no,
you're not Montana. You just go back outside and keep doing whatever you're doing.
Oh, well, that's the threat to the community part.
Well,
that's the threat to the community part.
It's a question of continuing the process of the court.
I know.
Either way, the threat to the community is part of the assessment. So if it's low enough, then the bond is ROR, which is and
of course the little minor, as I've said, if you look at the number of people that could be ROR very easily, it seems to me, you're going to save yourself, I don't know, tens of thousands.
Some judges do that.
Yeah, no, I certainly would. I love this one guy. I forget what he is. He's on YouTube all the time, and he interviews the people, and they run a red light or something. Apparently, it's some kind of traffic court or something. But he takes their, if you're a veteran, or if you're pregnant, or if you're visiting your aunt or in the hospital or something, he takes all that into consideration. Good news and bad news.
Sure, that's called judging.
Yeah. Well, so anyway, he's kind of the new Judge Janine. I think she's retiring in June.
I don't know.
Okay, and of course, the other thing that happened was apparently one of the new games has been, as you know, in politics there's always dirty games.
Okay.
And we started here. I remember when I was here at the university, they did dirty games.
Oh right, yeah. You're talking about news stuff.
Yeah. And so what I here what they would do is people would march around. If you run for president here in Florida, I mean the university president or whatever it is, Senate president or something, and if you would dress up as your opposition and go naked and with a sign, it's kind of one of these things where if your people would do that, that's kind of a dirty trick.
Right.
Distorted Nancy Pelosi videos show platforms aren't ready to fight dirty campaign tricks. Well, I don't know. YouTube removed the videos, Facebook deranked it, but Twitter let it stand. Apparently what's happened is some people have put together pictures of Nancy Pelosi on her podium as she's stuttering and stammering and all this kind of stuff.
I saw one. It didn't look so bad. I've seen her be a lot worse than those comments.
Well, again, what I'm saying is
she's got like 1,000 hours of video, so I mean you're gonna stammer and stutter over 1,000 hours at some point or another.
Well, apparently that they were saying was that this was, as far as they were concerned, somebody went into Video Shop or whatever, and mangled it to make her look especially
there were accusations it was slowed down or garbled or whatever. But you don't need to do any of that stuff to Nancy, and she. Like I said, she garbles through some stuff.
Well, what I thought was interesting was that YouTube and Facebook, YouTube removed it and Facebook deranked it. I mean, now they're making a decision, again, as we always had problems with this, so we'll see.
Well, so that brings up the point that Scott Adams was wrestling with this week, which is, do the social media companies have so much influence that the election is a foregone conclusion?
And, of course, the answer is no. Scott Adams is wrong on this.
I'm with you.
He is wrong. He doesn't. I don't know what it is, but the market's going to figure this stuff out.
Well, I know. I mean, look. Here's the thing that he keeps missing. He concludes that the system is broken because he doesn't know whether or not he's being shadow banned.
Right.
That is to say, he lost 20% of his audience.
Right.
And he says, I don't know if that's something going against me or not. And because I don't know, that's a problem.
Yeah.
Well, look, here's the great news, is that a company that wants to serve him recognizes that he values that knowledge, and they'll provide a report to him.
They will?
Of course. Look, think about a competitor to Twitter pops up, and they say, look, we're going to show you if somebody drops you, we're going to provide a report.
Okay.
And we'll tell you exactly why that is, why we estimate that they dropped you. And so what he's worried about is that there are political operatives behind Twitter and Facebook, and that they're all on the left, and that they're all pulling little strings just right to influence the election. Could be, but at the same time, my thought is, if people do that, they'll be found out, and then competitors will arise, and they'll offer alternatives.
Right.
I mean, nobody would stand for that. If the news story came out, and that Google, for example, was doing everything in their power to influence the election, you don't think people would start using Bing?
Right.
I mean, I think there would be a wave. Yeah, I think there would be a wave. So
I agree with you. The market will figure it out. And also, the other thing is, he noticed this 20% drop off in his monetization. Now, crocodile tears, Crimea River, whatever it is, the world's smallest violin. He's rich. He's filthy rich beyond belief. So his monetization drops off by 20%. Hey, these are what you're dealing with.
Well, he said it might be that. This is
the environment in which you deal. He was worried about
the implication for the political universe. In other words, it was like somebody brought up, and he talked about this. He said, look, one of his people said, look, in the old days, we had news. Like you said, dirty tricks. When there was the only paper in town was one newspaper. That was the only place you were getting your news from. There was no TV or anything, or maybe you didn't even have a radio. Then if somebody published a news story on the day of the election that was a dirty trick, okay, then they're going to own that election, right? Well, no, not exactly. Somehow or another, the news always gets out. You figure out what the dirty tricks are, or you see it coming. You're like, really? On the day of the election,
Well, of course, now
Joni came forward and she's been raped by this guy, or what? There's some things that obviously smack of tricks.
Well, they have a word for it. It's called the October surprise.
There you go.
I mean, you always know that there's going to be, and you don't have really that much time to go against it and everything. But as far as what was interesting is when you're talking about the newspapers, the only newspaper in town. Well, maybe in some little dorky town, but I'll tell you, until fairly recently in my lifetime, we had 3 newspapers, and even in Washington D.C. we had 3 newspapers.
Yeah, and
actually I think we might have had 4 that were actual newspapers.
I'm saying even in the towns with 1, you get stranger passing through town with the news from the town next door.
Oh, right, true, that's right.
So the word spreads like wildfire, no matter
Especially does these days.
Well, and these days it's unstoppable.
Right.
And especially people are seeking out the news, which.
Well, not only that, what you've got is, and of course, this is another thing. When you've got places like Snopes and some other ones that claim to say, "Wait a minute, we're going to be a judge on whether this is fake or not." Well, of course, then they found out that Snopes wasn't entirely.
Right.
You wait a minute. So
well, of course it is. Of course.
But I'm saying there's another one now that apparently comes up that is a new website actually is claiming to be, we're going to be the ones that decide if it's fake or real or something like
That's
that.
right. And
but this is what happens: is the market figures this stuff out.
Right. Exactly.
It doesn't bother me at all. And of course, a lot of times,
truth site rating site.
Which
truth sites are the truthful ones?
Right. Exactly. Yes. I just think that it's one of the things that you have to deal with is the environment that you're in. This is the environment, the what's the other word for environment? The situation, whatever. You're dealt a certain hand. This is the cards you're dealt, and you deal that. You play with that. And the system is you Google, Twitter, whatever the hell it is, and that's what you know, and that's what you deal with it. And if you get demonetized, it's a problem. But without it, you wouldn't have been monetized anyway. What is this all about? Suddenly your income depends on your videos that you do. And
well, I don't think he was bitching about the income.
Okay, maybe he didn't. He did say that was what
that's what triggered it.
What's triggered it. And he said, they're not telling me why they did it. And that's why for instance, he started spelling out words.
Right.
Because this might have been this is another way of suppressing a viewpoint, is if you have no clue, and I understand this could be a problem, if you have no clue on why you've been shadow banned, now suddenly you are ultra careful on what you say or do and how you say it, because it might be this, it might be that, I don't know.
I would be willing to bet that if there's not already one in existence, before the end of the year, there will be an app which determines whether or not you're being shadow banned.
Okay, I'm with you on that. I believe you. Mark will figure it out.
Yeah.
Our next thing that we're about another thing from the United Nations, which we always hold in high esteem because of their reports, as you know.
Because they're united.
Because you're united, and it's all 170. Everybody. Kumbaya. Female AI voices encourage harmful gender stereotypes. One of the things, speaking of spelling things, Amazon's Alexa, I dare not say the word.
Oh, right. She's not in here.
Unless we fire it up.
That bitch isn't in here yet.
I know, you don't have one. Yeah. But I know in my place, when somebody ever does that, they'll say, well, you got to do about your Alexa. And of course, my Alexa fires right in and starts, I don't understand. What are you talking about?
Me,
yes,
George?
I'm sorry, yeah. For a good time call,
and this is exactly what we both of us just walked right into this trope here. Go ahead.
Apple Siri, Microsoft's Cortana, and other AI assistants with default female names and voices send the message that women are, quote, docile and eager to please puppet helpers. Available at the touch of a button or a blunt voice command, say, hey, okay. And this is by the UN Educational, Scientific, and Cultural Organization. I'm sorry, where are you going? I have diplomatic immunity because I'm at the UNESCO. Mm-hmm. That looks like UNESCO. Yeah, it's the same. That's the same things as UNESCO.
Oh my God.
Yeah, didn't know that. The system holds no power of agency beyond what the commander asks it. It honors commands and responds to queries regardless of their tone of hostility.
Right? Can you imagine?
Can you imagine?
Like,
wait a minute.
Alexa, could you play this? Can you ask more nicely, Jimmy?
Play the goddamn song.
I don't like your tone.
I don't like your tone, that's right. I'm sorry, John. I don't like your tone. I can't.
I don't think that apology was sincere.
I mean, so true. Amazon has revealed it chose Alexa's female because research suggested that customers would find a female voice gentler. What's interesting?
Duh.
Yeah, right. Duh. I mean, is it not true? Is it not true that the airplane alerts in fighter airplanes are females?
Yeah, I think you're right.
I think they are.
Yeah.
I mean, this is.
Yeah, because guys pay attention.
Guys
to
pay
that
attention.
voice. Yeah.
Okay, shut up, bitch. And they won't. I mean,
No, look, it's not because she listens to us. It's because we listen to her.
Exactly. Well, so anyway, so we carried out research and found that a woman's voice was more sympathetic and better revived and so forth. Obedient and obliging machines that pretend to be women are entering our homes, cars, and offices, says the director of gender equality at UNESCO.
It's so funny. So they have female robots commanding all these men in all these houses, and that for them is a step backwards.
Yes, totally. Well, and female and how they respond. The UN report recommended several steps, by the way. And I got to give them credit for this. One of the problems I have is when you read a book and they outline all the problems and no solutions.
No solutions.
Not to be outdone. Not to maybe these guys have come up with
What do you got?
including ending default programming of digital assistants as female, programming them not to respond gently to sexist or abusive commands, and providing women with more opportunities in the tech field at a seat at the table in developing new technologies. So
You have to start the conversation.
just
I like a genderless voice, and I want it to snap back at me.
that's right. I just it'd be maybe like Hal,
Right.
I mean,
Yeah.
I'm sorry, John, I can't do that.
Right. And I'm sure that's useful, and I would bet 25% or something, some large percent of this population probably prefer a HAL type voice to Alexa. But
Well, one of the things I do believe, I don't know for sure, but I think you can can't you record your own ringtones?
yeah, I was just going to say, look, it won't be long at all. You'll be able to put your own voice on Alexa or your
Right.
wife's voice. So that'll be good.
Ooh, I don't know. No, not the one. That reminds me of Mud, the
Right,
original
yeah.
Star Trek. No.
That's it.
Oh,
it.
God,
That's
yeah.
exactly what it's going to be like.
That's right.
And this gets us to the live sex dolls
Okay.
story, right?
Do you want me to run real quick? Yes. Okay. And let me do that. Sex robot threat: : all AI girlfriends indistinguishable from humans after major 5G upgrade. I'm not sure what 5G has to do with it, but yeah, there we are. Oh, you got them. Okay. Oh, and the caption was, "Which one do you find sexy?"
Yeah.
I mean, which one would you listen to? So, a sex doll manufacturer, Realbotics, which is kind of interesting, has recently fitted new models with Wi-Fi enabling high-speed synchronization for voice and animation. They also stand to benefit from 5G, which is poised to give a vastly superior mobile internet data. They're going to be able to update and everything over the 5G. I love this guy. Here's a guy who's a sex doll collector. Guess what his name is? Brick Dollbanger.
No way.
Yes,
no
yes,
way.
yes. I mean, that's probably not
Dollbanger.
Brick Dollbanger. Okay.
Get the fuck out of
Believes this technology will make them so realistic that we won't be able to tell them apart from humans. Brick, who has close ties with Realbotics, told the Daily Star, anytime you can get a steadier flow of information from software to hardware activation, you're going to get better synchronization and smoother, more lifelike movements. He also revealed that they have been upgraded to a new vaginal sensor, claimed the result, with human-like responses.
Yeah, this is incredible. I had to show these pictures for engineer Eric and counselor Bart. The girl, I gotta admit, I mean, you look at these girls. You could be fooled, especially a few beers in.
Boy, isn't that the truth? You know what you say when you wouldn't even have to look at the bottom of the glass.
No,
just over the top.
Yeah, no. It's gonna get very, very AI.
I noticed that all of them are large-breasted. Which
What?
Is, yeah, I'm not sure why exactly. I mean, I sort of know why, but
Sort of know.
there are no skinny ones.
Well, look, give it a little time.
Yeah, I know. No, that's right. The market will figure out.
Some are tall, some are short.
Right.
That kind of stuff.
Right.
Some are blonde, some are brunette, redhead.
Yeah.
And so you got some Asians. So.
Yeah, well, won't be able to tell them apart. As right out of the movies, from the movies to us.
Mm-hmm.
Think about it. You think about some of this stuff. Now, I realize it's been 40.
Cherry 2000, Cherry 3000, Cherry 5000. I don't know. That's the one I recommended to you.
I haven't seen it yet. I don't know why, but okay. So anyway, that's the threat. It's a threat. And speaking of another threat, the U.S. has ordered another 1,500 troops to the Mideast to counter the Iran threat.
Mm-hmm.
The United States said it was deploying 1,500 additional troops to the Middle East to counter credible threats from Iran in a move denounced by Tehran as a threat to international peace. The escalation of the U.S. military presence follows a decision in early May to send an aircraft carrier strike force and B-52s in a show of force, and because they're worried about an imminent attack by Iranian attack to attack U.S. assets. Well, of course, the nice thing is, if you're worried about Iran attacking U.S. assets, the best thing to do is to put your U.S. assets right next to Iran, and that way,
Well, this is an interesting game here that he's playing. We haven't seen Trump engage really in any sort of military escalation to this point. And that was one of the things people were kind of worried about. Is he going to be jumping all over the nuclear button or something?
My butt's bigger than yours.
Yeah, I mean, there was certainly concern about that, and also no diplomatic experience. Maybe he would get pushed in some way.
I think he's already been pushed around by Bolton and Pompeo.
Well, like I said, he hasn't entangled us in anything in any large way. We seem to have defeated the Taliban or ISIS in Iraq.
And seem to have disentangled a little
Syria?
bit from the Norks.
Well, that I think the jury is still out on. He's still lobbing missiles.
Yeah,
around.
but he came out and he said, well, what are these? Are short-range missiles. We don't much care about that.
Yeah, I did see that comment. I didn't check. I didn't verify whether that was accurate.
He said basically that doesn't violate anything, but be careful.
Right,
We're
right.
gonna
Well,
watch.
look, like I said, I've said from the beginning, I think he's handling that with as much diplomacy as you can, but we don't have results yet. I mean, he still could easily be manufacturing large missiles and lots of nuclear stuff underground and in various places, and I don't know that we would know about it or do anything about it. We haven't done anything about it. So, and we're still negotiating, but I think we're fine with that. And the other places, when you look around, Russia hasn't done anything terribly aggressive or anything. They haven't, Crimea or nothing like that. Ukraine, we've been sort of waiting for.
Well, that's Crimea and Ukraine. That's all the same place.
Well, it's sort of the same place.
Yeah.
I mean, Ukraine is different, and they have had some rebels in there.
Right. Not my problem.
Part. Well, I know, but that's what I'm getting at is that Trump has not involved us in any of those things.
Well,
Yemen. I mean, I think we've probably continued our involvement in the Yemen, Saudi Arabia conflict. And
I'm going to talk about that in just a second because so
Afghanistan, we'll see.
Well, they're talking about 1,500 people now.
He seems to like Israel a lot.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
1,500 people, and they're going to send the Patriot Missile Defense Battalion that had its deployment is going to be extended. So it's all for protective stuff, which is just fine, except as I just said, if you're going to move your whatever kind of troops you've got over next to Iran, you got to expect that they're going to feel a little threatened about it. I would certainly if they started, as we did during the Cuban Missile Crisis. We were a little nervous about that, so we had to do that. So I don't know.
Well, yeah, it'll be interesting to see how all of those various games play out. China, Iran, and North Korea.
Yeah, that's not all, but okay. Now the next thing that comes, this is a very big deal. The owners of a biblical replica of Noah's Ark.
Oh, this is a non-story though. This is a clickbait.
I know it was clickbait. I'm going to tell you why.
Yeah.
Rain damage, and it wasn't even 40 days. Apparently, the owners of life-size Noah's Ark in northern Kentucky sued the insurers for refusing to cover all things rain damage. Well, you
Yeah,
think,
but-
gosh, was this thing? You remember that movie about where the ark got to float and go into the Washington into the
That
whatever.
was a great movie.
That was really cool, yeah. But anyway, where the guy turned. Anyway, the thing was, what happened was the rain washed out the access road.
Right. Didn't
And
hurt
so
the
it's been
ark.
repaired, blah, blah, blah. This was a nothing burger. It was, like you said, that was a clickbait. CrossFit quits Facebook. Instagram accuses a social media giant censorship of being utopian socialists. Now, apparently CrossFit, the branded workout program, Regimen, accused Facebook of being utopian socialists and left the platform. So they're pretty good sized outfit. And what happened is, apparently the reason they left was because Facebook banned one of their diets. And their diet was like lots of carbos and no sugar or something. I forget what it was. It was different from what you would expect.
Yeah.
And so it was the Banting 7-Day Meal Plan, a group that advocated diet aiming at eating food as close to its natural state as possible, free from processing, additives, preservatives, and sugar. Well, they complained and they got right back again. They were put back up but it was interesting that they got voted off in the first place, I think. But then they got put back on, and they said, "Screw it, we're leaving and we're going to go someplace else." So I guess what they're going to do is the same thing that what's his name on the first guy that was banned.
Alex Jones.
Alex Jones, right? Now he's got a business that you can go directly to.
Sure.
A big, huge business, and I guess that's what these guys are going to do. He says Facebook's news feeds are censored and crafted to reflect the political leanings of Facebook's utopian socialists while remaining vulnerable to misinformation designed to stir up violence and prejudice. So, whatever. Let's see here. I think I've got one more thing. Unless we're at the end. You got some stuff?
Maybe, but go ahead if you got.
Well, I had. This is one of the things that is a legal thing that you would want to talk about.
Okay, go ahead.
Although it's fairly simple. Neighbors are suing over pig fumes, spur a right to work, right to farm push. Young hogs in a pen at Farmville. Can you imagine Farmville, North Carolina?
Yeah.
Large agriculture groups across the United States are pushed for tighter restrictions on nuisance lawsuits. You know what happens, of course, is if you've ever been next to a chicken farm, big chicken farm or hog farm, it's stinkaroo. I mean, it is
we've got
really
some
bad.
around here. You can, if you're driving on the wrong freeway at the wrong time of day.
Boy, I'll tell you,
it's
or the wind is
incredible.
just the wrong way or something.
Yeah.
And you really have some bad. So of course, what they said is they have something which apparently is something like mens rea, only it's called.
Yeah, I can tell you what's going on here.
It's a common law called defense in the common law called
Coming to the nuisance.
Coming to the nuisance, right? And it's one of these things that it happens here. Interestingly enough, in Gainesville, where they put a new subdivision in the path of the plains.
Right.
And so they're complaining that the planes are too loud. Well, you knew that.
Right.
Going
And
in.
presumably your property was cheaper because of it and that kind of stuff.
You would think.
Look, here's the bottom line. What's going on here is they're trying to preserve various people's interests, but common law has been developed over hundreds of years of complaints brought to the wise judges, them comparing facts from the past situations, carefully nuancing out any little slight differences and making informed judgments about those things. And through that method, over hundreds of years, we developed this series of controls that allow people to live together in some relative harmony. What happens is we have legislative power in this country, and so we've empowered groups to overrule the common law, including
Right.
state legislatures, and they often do. They'll pass a statute which says this amends the common law, and now we're going to go with this new rule. Okay, in 99 times out of 100, that is stupid. That is a dumb idea, because you're just not going to come up with something on the fly that's better than hundreds of years of people thinking about this stuff. And so, yeah, you've got the benefit of being able to consider all that past thought and everything, but whenever I see fixes to the common law, my first instinct is, ouch, they're going to screw something
Well,
up.
what's interesting is that what this article pointed out was what the legislatures are doing is to say, wait a minute, this first come first serve takes precedence. You know, if you move there, you know, the farmer has a right to be there too, and
Right.
and so if you're going to sue the farmers and basically put them out of business, you know, can't do that. I mean, this is a guy, his livelihood. So we're gonna expand the law to say, wait a minute, no nuisance suits allowed.
Right.
And of course, what they have, one of the little things they point out is, well, with the someplace in Nebraska or whatever it is, you know, who was there first, pretty easy to figure it out. But some places that have been here since 1776 or whatever, trying to figure out who was there first, and did it come down through, you know, has your family been there for how many years, blah, 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 whatever. Trying to figure out the first guy there becomes a little tenuous, apparently.
And that is exactly the process that the common law has figured out how to navigate.
Ah, okay.
And that's what I'm saying. When they pass a blanket law, a new thing that says something like, well, we're going to make it harder for people to bring nuisance suits. Well, somehow they're erasing nuances that used to be built into the law through the development of the common law, whereby there are exceptions. For example, I mean, there are times when you let's say you change the substantial use of the property. You know,
right.
It was a pig farm and now it's a hog farm or something, and it's slightly different. Yeah, I don't know.
Sorry. Well, yeah.
Yeah, chicken. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Something like that. And then they say, well, wait a minute, the new law doesn't account for that, and yet it's way stinkier or something. Well, the common law probably would have accounted for that because they've been dealing with this stuff and people living in proximity for hundreds of years. So the nuisance is a well-developed.
Right. Well, you know, like you say, there's nuances.
Exactly.
There's nuances, and that is,
They rarely
how
get-
stinky is it?
Yeah, that's it. And you got a stinkometer, and you know what time's the day, and how, and did you know, and were you informed, or was there notice, or there's all kinds of things. But trust the common law. That's all I'm going to say.
I'm with you.
And here's another thing that goes right along with this. So it's okay to feed the homeless again in parks in Fort Lauderdale.
Really?
Yes.
Now, there was this 90-year-old man that they kept arresting?
Yeah. There's been various groups they've been kicking out. There's a group called like Food Not Bombs or something that tries to pass out food to the homeless. And Fort Lauderdale shuts them down and claims that they need to get a permit in order to pass out free food on the park. And they claim it's for things like cleanliness and
Safety. Safety. It's always safety.
Right, exactly. Well, this ruling, which I don't know how long it'll stand, comes out of your favorite, the 11th Circuit, and what they said is that this particular group who is handing out food, it's political speech. The handing out of food is political speech.
Really?
Yeah, because they hang a banner and they have literature that they pass out, and they do it close to government buildings, and they sort of support procedures and policies that help the homeless. So,
Interesting you should mention that because
like, I love the way you're squinting though.
No, I am, because
to try to see. Wait a minute, how did you shoehorn that in there?
well, I do know that here the Hare Krishnas pass out free food, free.
Yeah.
And that they ask for a donation. Once you get through the line, they ask for a donation or what. But that's religion.
Right.
So that's verboten. But like as you say, this is political speech, passing out food because you have a banner that says, I don't know, what does it say?
Right. Feed the homeless.
Feed the homeless, right.
And so, but it's interesting, though, that they didn't do what I would think would be the natural thing, which is to say something like, it's food.
Yeah.
They're handing it out. Get over it. You can't pass a statute which prevents something like, and that's like saying, well, you need a permit to breathe inside the park. It's like, who owns the park? Is this a public park? So what, you can't even hand food out without a permit? It's like the most basic thing that you would do. Okay, all right, you're sunbathing without a permit here. I can see that's dangerous. Did somebody approve your sunscreen? I don't know what they come up with.
Well, of course, we have a lot of that anyway here. I do know that it is when you have some kind of one of these free barbecue things, or not free, but I mean you have a big barbecue, and there's always food left over.
Right.
In some jurisdictions, you got to chunk it.
Yeah, we have to throw it away here mostly.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And of course, the other thing that I took a picture of this. I was up in I don't know exactly what the deal is, but I was up at Publix here the other day at closing time, and one of the guys was going through this sealed up sandwich bin, and all in the saran wrap and everything. But they had the sell by date.
Yeah.
And the sell by date was going to expire tomorrow. And so they were cleaning it all out. And I said, well, what do you do with these? He said, we throw it out.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, wait a minute, this is sell by date. It's what a joke.
I'll do you one better than that.
Okay,
I went
even better.
I went into Publix the other day, and there's the food I want. And I said, hey, I'd like to get some of that. And they said, oops, we already turned off the heat lamp. It's no good anymore. Like, we have to throw it out. Can't sell it to you. Like, there's the food. And we're going to take it right now and throw it away because, like, 5 minutes ago, I clicked the switch here.
It's just so tragic. And people,
the regulations,
Yeah, well, no, it's interesting because that also, as an aside, Mrs. Jimmy came in and found out that I had taken, which of course I'm a big mayonnaise eater, and I had taken a jar of mayonnaise into my room to do something, and I put it, so she comes and says, wait, it's not in the refrigerator. It's bad. I have to throw this out. I said, no, you don't, for God's sakes.
All the refrigeration does is slow down the development of the bacteria.
Which, as far as she was concerned, in the 4 hours that it had been out there sealed, that
it's spoiled.
It's spoiled.
That's it.
No, don't.
Yeah. Well, so
fortunately, that was one of those 2-for-1.
That's right. All right. That's about all we got here.
Okay. We have got a lot coming up on Wednesday. I will tell you this. I went to Zero Hedge.
Oh, yeah?
And started going through stuff. And I'll tell you, lots of stuff on Zero Hedge.
Oh, shoot. Look at this. All this. Gene, thanks for commenting. We got a bunch of stuff to go through now. I'll stick Jimmy on it here after we're done. So I was about to ask you a comment about the military stuff we were talking about. But thanks for joining us. Really appreciate it. Cherry 3000. Okay, I got that. Thank you, Bill, Anthony, Kelly, anybody else who watched, had a good time. Glad you did. Come back and see us again sometime.
Well, now this will be up on YouTube here in about an hour or so, right?
Yeah, but if they're already through this part, then...
No, but what I mean is you need to remind them that if they want to see it live
just join,
and comment,
right?
Then on Wednesday they can show up at 4 o'clock.
There you go. So these tracks brought to you by Kevin MacLeod. We thank Kevin. This is Happy Happy Game Show. Earlier you heard Whiskey on the Mississippi. So also, show brought to you by Free Public. It's a great little book. I've crossed out the JimmyDoane.com website name here because it's JimmyDoneShow.com is our new home. So you can catch our latest episodes there as well. So I'm Council Curtis. This is the Jimmy Doane Show. Thanks so much. See you soon.